Welcome to the Non-Essential Podcast. I'm Steve Gibson.
Hey, I'm Ben Matlock. Hi, I'm Ben. And
I kind of want to do a whole show as like Krusty the Clown now, even though I can't do... I think we've well established over 205 episodes, 6 counting this one.
You have one voice, and it's your own.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah, I don't have voices either, but damn it, I'll try to have them.
Well, that's why I'm the perfect co-host for you, because I think all your voices are great, because I'm comparing them to what I can do, which is nothing.
Yeah. And that's the foundation of this show, is I need somebody with less self-esteem than me to enable me. No, welcome to the Non-Essential Podcast. On this show, we tell each other stories, and they can be about anything.
I got a story. I don't have a story because it's not my turn, but...
Yeah, I barely have a story. I picked out a Creepypasta yesterday, and I was like, I don't need to save the link or anything. I'll remember it. I didn't remember it. And it was one of those things where I was getting ready to, I woke up this morning and immediately knew I forgot it completely. Luckily,
halfway through, you'll remember it. And you'll be like, well, fuck this story. I'm going to this other one.
No, luckily that we have browser histories. Unfortunately, we also have browser histories. So in order to find the story, I had to go through every dumb thing I looked up last night when I should have been, in bed.
Does jelly expire? Does expired jelly make you sick?
Why do people?
Well, how sick does expired jelly make you?
Okay,
you won't give up on this expired jar of jelly. You're like, well,
okay, Google. Why do people keep black widows? Today's story. It didn't. I'm running into a lot where nobody wants to put their names to shit. But this was called "On the Mystery of Human Perception."
Okay, with a title like that, I like to just pick somebody to be the author when it's anonymous, and this one is by Barack Obama.
Yes, by His Holiness Barack Obama.
Mm-hmm. That's why he, didn't stay in politics, is because he wanted to pursue his career in creepypastas, anonymous creepypastas. He doesn't even want credit for them.
I actually think. If I don't have a lot of faith that the human race will exist in 100 years, but if it does, I feel like Barack Obama would become a title, like the Dalai Lama or something. And it's like he's the 67th Barack Obama.
I like it because it kind of reminds me of the president, but it kind of reminds me of a Street Fighter character.
That would be sick, name. Dude. They do have a president character in Street Fighter 5.
Do they?
Yeah, he's kind of like
President Whoop Ass.
He's actually broken. Tournaments, people get really pissed when people play as him. But he's got a big top hat, and I think he has the sleeves ripped off his suit. And he's got
but
a
he's
weird...
supposed to be the actual president, or he just dresses like
he's the president of the world. It's in the storyline. Street Fighter's awesome.
I love that they choose to use imagery of our one president 100 years ago. They're like, this is what all presidents look like.
His special move is the Uncle Sam, I want you to fucking join. But out of his finger comes a laser beam.
Well, yeah, all presidents get that power when that's what inauguration is. It's
thank God that's not actually true, because Trump would have definitely killed us all with it.
I think he would have shot his own brain out picking his nose, so.
But it's the small hands thing. His hands aren't big enough, so it probably wouldn't be that powerful of a beam. Just, you could scan groceries with it.
His aide gives him some bad news, and he's standing there, and he's like, I think I have a fever. My forehead's a little warm. And then he looks in the mirror, and he's like, God damn it, it's Trump, stop it.
Will you quit? All right, you're fucking up the thermostat. All right, let's get to it. Since the dawn of time. I'm not going to be able to read like that the whole time, but I'll try. Since...
Dun, dun. Oh, sorry.
That's when the drummer is drunk. Dur, 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 dur. Since the dawn of time, mankind has been ignorant of various aspects of the universe in which we live. Centuries ago, man believed that the entire world was composed of only 4 elements: air, water, earth, and fire.
Then the Avatar was born.
Yeah. And then 2 more movies would take 50 years to get made about blue people.
No, I meant the Last Airbender Avatar.
Oh.
The good Avatar.
Did you hear that the fucking the new Avatar that his next one he's already planning are fire avatars?
Oh, so he did the first one and he's like, somehow I made a bunch of money, but nobody likes this. But everybody likes the other Avatar, so let's just copy that.
His exact quote, like James Cameron was like, I've only shown their good side. I was like, yeah, I can't wait for fucking the metalhead Avatar. He was like saying, fuck you, Mom. Fuck you, Dad. Even today, humans are discovering that there are 10 dimensions in space-time rather than the 3 which we perceive daily, and that the majority of matter in the universe is an unknown substance, often referred to as dark matter. I propose that this obliviousness of the world around us is, in actuality, an evolutionary advantage over many other members of the animal kingdom, as this ignorance of unimportant and perhaps even frightening stimuli allows humans an opportunity for thought and ingenuity that is unique among the living organisms that populate our planet. With my doctorate in neuroscience, I intend to locate this proposed perception filter and remove or otherwise disable it so that other humanity can gain a greater understanding of our universe. That's a bad plan.
Yeah, I think so. I've missed all of it because I'm distracted by how much you sound like a dime store Rod Sterling. Like, it's like the
That's
Twilight Zone.
That's more than a nickel.
That's right. And there's worse people to remind somebody of, as a narrator.
I just can't. You can't start a story with "since the dawn of time."
I know, without doing that kind of voice, and I appreciate it. I'm not criticizing it by any means. I love it, but I'm just sitting here man, this is Twilight Zone, sort of.
It actually works pretty well in going into this next paragraph. That was my first paragraph of my doctoral essay from college. So yeah, you're reading it in the paper voice. Yeah, totally.
The narrator.
I would have enjoyed school a lot more if I ever thought to read my papers like that.
Yeah, I am going to criticize your creative choice as a reader to do that, and then not when you go to the character's actual voice. It should be Professor Frink from The Simpsons, Laven. Oh, that was.
I couldn't even.
I know.
That. The master of 2 voices doesn't have any Simpsons ones, I'm afraid.
Yeah.
It's like my Homer was like, Marge, fucking stupid, Marge.
That's like the Bloodhound Gang version of Homer, which I appreciate that too.
Fuck, Marge, I'm a fucking idiot. That's the whole episode. That's
almost dead on the opening of One Fierce Beer Coaster.
Oh, homie, you fucking asshole.
But so to catch myself back up, it's a paper about how the humans, since the dawn of time, have known nothing, and now we're starting to learn about stuff in the universe.
I like the structure of that essay. So that's his doctoral essay from college. So presumably he's saying to his professors, if you supply me with a doctorate, I will shatter reality as you know it. So that's pretty good. If you grant me this power, I promise to abuse it.
Because I feel like that's how every student, especially in the sciences, feels when they go to enter a field. I'm going to turn the world on its head, and then you get into the field, you're like, oh, well, I discovered the spider with a 9th leg. That's pretty cool.
That's pretty fucking bad. I don't want them to have more stuff.
You want them to be devolving, not evolving.
Yeah.
But
I'd still be pretty scared of a spider that didn't have any legs and just sort of rolled at you.
Yeah, it's just a venomous snowman, basically.
I mean, think about snakes. Like, they don't have any fucking legs, and they're fucking mean as shit.
And they're way faster than they should be for an animal with 0 legs. Like,
totally. Like,
I'm sorry, if you...
How are you, like, completely frictionless? You weird fucking thing.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. If you cut off my legs or, like, sewed them together so I was just one long tube, I would not be rocketing across the ground.
Tune in next week when we test that.
Yeah.
All right. That was the first paragraph of my doctoral essay from college. It was, as far as I'm concerned, the beginning. Of what? I can't say. I don't understand at all what's happened over these past 10 years, but I can assure you that it was terrible. I'm not entirely sure if it's even over.
He's working at McDonald's, so...
Yeah, I shattered the fourth wall. Here's your Egg McMuffin. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Now's not the time for self-pity. I have to record what's happened, as I've said, for the sake of science. You came here for a narrative, and I intend to give you one. I got my doctorate after submitting that essay. This was the beginning of a long, successful career for me. I worked at several institutes throughout the world and forwarded my many studies in several fields. However, that entire time, I longed for that one discovery. I yearned... that's pleasant. Burp in the microphone, Ben.
So, am I mistaken? Because this makes us sound like a doctorate, like you said, is just a plea for a degree.
Yeah,
like
it's like a badge and gun.
Yeah, he didn't do any scientific work. He didn't have a thesis or a theory or anything. It's just like, if you make me a scientist, I will discover stuff.
Yeah, pretty much. It just sort of assumes, like, I did a lot of shit for science, but not the real shit. Not what I promised. However, that entire time I longed for that one discovery. I yearned for this filter, knowing I'd find it. So I decided to look. Really, after all that time, like, now I'll work on it.
Now, it's been 10 years. I should probably get around to that one thing that I said I was going to do. I get that. I identify with that.
That's true. Scientists are just like me and you. Terrible and lazy. By this point in time, I had already made a habit of collecting human brains whenever possible. Okay, this took a turn.
I like the whenever possible, though. It's like, it's not, my driving passion.
Just like you see a guy get hit by a bus, you just sort of weasel in like, hey, you going to keep that?
Yeah, anybody got dibs on that brain?
Hey, you going to use that brain? None of my friends were ever put off by it, even when I began to dissect them. After all, I pretty much worked with brains for a living, so why not? I would often poke around inside this gray matter looking for clues, mapping the brain using already known as reference points. This whole time I was trying to find an area that could give me some clue as to where this filter was, but these dead brains just wouldn't work. I would need to see a live one in action in order to be able to truly achieve my goal. So I guess he's expecting like a fucking like Brita filter inside the brain. I wasn't performing any surgeries or anything, just carrying out simple CAT scans. So no one was opposed to my tapping into a local hospital's resources to help me in my studies.
Because hospitals notoriously don't care about running CAT scans that cost a shitload of money every time.
Yeah, nobody needs to run a CT, for realsies.
We'll foot the power bill on this, don't worry. You're curious. It's cute.
Yeah. I had more... it was like, your brain's fucked, but what if I got rid of that filter? I'd be like, what are you talking about? I had more difficulty finding willing test subjects. Enter William. About 26 at the time, 6 feet tall, in good health, and average intelligence. So a real piece of shit. Over the course of 20 months, I called Will in for periodic CAT scans every other week. Our business relationship grew into friendship, and even today I think of him as a brother. In science.
Does it say that?
No.
Oh, damn.
I wish it did.
That's a very good ad-lib then. I like it.
Over time, I began to zone in on a... I might like call everything in science. Like, you're my wife in science.
In science. I like that because it diminishes it. It doesn't make it stronger.
Totally. Over time, I began to zone in on a single area in the brain, inside the temporal lobe, the area responsible for sensory input, right next to the hippocampus, the area responsible for forming and organizing memories. However, even this discovery didn't provide conclusive evidence that I was right. I needed to test my theory. The hardest part was going through all the legal junk and paperwork. The test itself was simple. I would put a device up to William's head, a gun, no, that would send an electrical pulse through his brain, deactivating this unknown bit of gray matter. If I was right, Will would get a glimpse into all of the as-of-yet unseen dimensions of space. And you know Will is probably only getting like $5 for this.
Buddy, if you survive, I'll buy you a value meal. I'll even let you biggie size it.
But I gained a brother and nightmare fuel. I'll never forget that day. Are you ready, Will? I said, stepping into the room and seeing him already seated in an armchair. Hell yeah, he said cheerily. Fuck yeah, get on with it, nerd.
The part he left out of the story is this guy was in a traumatic, car accident, and hell yeah is the only thing he can say.
Fuck yeah,
so,
bro.
Like, internally, he's like, stop fucking with my brain, but externally, he's going, hell yeah, every time he asks him a question.
He's just stoked. He's like getting beer money for this. Fuck yeah, get on with it, nerd. I smiled, approaching a control panel. I flipped a few dials and grabbed a headpiece that was wired up to the panel. I like that scientific breakdown of the machine. I flipped some shit and pushed a button or two.
Yeah, we've switched to like Frankenstein equipment. Yeah. I laughed as I pulled the giant lever on the wall.
Soon my bagel was ready. After I placed it on his head, Will looked at me with only a slight hint of doubt. This won't hurt, will it? Nah. I lied. I had no idea what would happen.
A good friendship that they've...
I love that it actually says that, and I can only hear it that way. Nah, but I don't know. Alrighty then. Fire when ready, Doc. I began to count down in my head. 3. My palms grew sweaty. 2. I could barely contain my excitement. 1. This was it. 0. I flipped the switch. In the split second afterward, I glanced at Will, whose eyes were shut tight before he jolted violently with shock and opened his eyes. Holy shit, he said, looking around in wonder. What? What do you see? I asked, practically hopping up and down with glee at my apparent success. This dude is Frankenstein.
He just like blinded the guy and thinks he's in another dimension or something.
I see cowboys. Well, that's not another dimension. It's just...
That's what, we've got 3 dimensions. It's like the 7th dimension is the cowboy dimension.
Well, that's just Red Dad. We weren't.
Right.
He said, staring ahead before looking to his left and right and behind.
Suddenly his hat was knocked off his head.
How do you stare at your behind?
When you can see in 10D, you can stare at everybody's behinds.
His eyes rolled back in his head. Holy shit, is that my ass? And sharks, stars, Indians, dinosaurs.
Clovers and balloons.
Yeah, he's just seeing cereal. He looked at me, obviously having difficulty finding me. This is fucking awesome, he yelled. I couldn't help but laugh a bit, but I was more interested in the science of what was going on. It seemed like he was seeing into the past like it was just another point in space. There are horses running...
fried the guy's fucking brain.
Yeah.
Like, you can achieve the same result by giving him some LSD.
That is true. Like, yeah, you fucked with the wiring. You didn't break down reality.
Right.
Then again, there me and many other partakers in chemical substances would agree that's all reality is. There are horses running through you right now, he said, chuckling before looking up. Whoa, flying cars. And are those aliens? He was now seeing into the future, it seemed. No, Will is fucking with you, dude.
He's like, if each time I name something new, my paycheck goes up.
Huh, that's neat. He stood and, with the device still on his head, stumbled toward one end of the room, looking down slightly. Then he screamed. He looked up. He screamed louder. He fell to the ground. He shrieked. He began to writhe on the floor before me, his body convulsing erratically like some kind of worm. I rushed.
The Cowboys won the fucking Super Bowl again.
God
I just saw
damn it. Yeah, that's
the part we missed. When he said cow, he meant the Dallas Cowboys.
We can't open reality up to every possibility. That can't be allowed. I rushed to the control panel. I flipped the switch off. Will continued to convulse. I ran to him and yanked off his headpiece. I panicked. I shook him. I don't know why I added that. I'm reading like a dick here. I shook him. I told him to come back. He screamed. Dear God, did he scream. He looked right through me. His eyes looked milky, dead, but at the same time filled with an unspeakable terror. He shut his eyes tight and lay in a fetal position, his yells shrinking into whimpers. And then he said, back to formula, and turned it into a green goblin. No, he breathed. I stood over him, motionless, for a full minute. Without thinking, I walked over to the monitor and stared blankly at the screen. I sat there for a few seconds before a sudden motivation to find out what had happened to my test subject. No, my friend overtook me. I scanned...
So put it back on his head and flipped it back on.
Yeah, let's go harder, buddy. I scanned the screen, pulling up countless models and programs. I looked at what brain scans from the device had detected during the test and was greeted by a model of a human brain that glowed red and yellow. The model was color-coded to show brain activity. It seemed that all of the sensory and emotional, as well as the linguistic areas of the brain, had been completely overloaded, and everything else was inflamed as well. That could mean... I pulled out my phone and called an ambulance immediately. They arrived at the testing facility in 15 minutes and were able to stabilize Will's breathing and heart rate. I sat in the chair, motionless, while the paramedics took him away. I had no idea what had happened. I wasn't sure if I wanted to find out. What the fuck? You set all this up? You don't want to know what you did?
To your friend?
Yeah. Well, if I plead ignorant, maybe Columbo won't catch me.
One more thing.
Oh, and just one more thing. I've run a lot of experiments. My wife says that I run so many experiments, I must be Frankenstein. Will recovered fairly quickly, or at least physically. He couldn't speak at all and was placed in a mental institution and would probably be there for life.
Yeah. All in all, not a bad
for science.
I don't think I'd put the word recovered in there in any form. He recovered, except for his complete mental breakdown that required he be locked up for the rest of his life.
I mentally fucked him for a hypothesis that didn't even hypothesize anything. Just what would happen if I fucked a brain.
Right.
I, on the other hand, was bombarded with lawsuits from his friends and family, as well as questions from my benefactors. I didn't care about any of it. All right, you know what? That's fair. Because if you're a benefactor, you're even fucking crazier and dumber than he is.
Yeah, because so far he gave you very little to go on.
Did you read that fucking doctoral essay? And you right. said, let's give him money? All he said was, I'm going to tear down reality as we know it.
And I find
Stick
it curious
to Tesla stocks, dipshits.
I like that he did an unsanctioned experiment on a live human subject that nearly killed the guy, and it's like, lawsuits. And it's like, I'm pretty sure you'd be in jail for like.
I mean, I'm sure there's releases and stuff that the dude signed. William was all in on it, dude. You heard him.
Yeah, but you can't. It's boring for the show. You can't really sign yourself out of liability like that. They can sign it all they want, but it's not going to hold up.
But that would be
right.
well. That's why there's lawsuits, and not why he was just hauled away.
Yeah.
I didn't care about any of it, though. When you have a friend as close to you as Will was to me, suffer a fate that horrible, you rarely care about anything. I felt nothing but guilt for my friend. I'm sorry to interrupt myself. We also should point out there have been real experiments done with just as bad abuses where nobody paid the price.
Yeah, that's true.
We talked about them on this show.
I suppose it doesn't...
It depends on the benefactor, if we're being real.
Yeah. I was going to say the time frame, because it doesn't really say when in history, but I guess that doesn't matter, because we just like to think that things are different today than they were 40, 50 years ago. And
the only difference is we have cell phones. Yeah. But we're the same people. But now someone might tape it.
Hell, I mean, Elon Musk was shoving shit in people's brains. This might be a true story.
I can't wait till he does it first. I felt nothing but guilt for my friend, who had nothing but faith in me. The entire time we had worked together. Then my thoughts turned to my own life's work, which had surely been for nothing, as the test ended in disaster. I was able to avoid imprisonment, and I kept the device, which I stored in my attic, where it gathered dust. I lived alone in my large house in a secluded area near the Rockies for years. I became paranoid as I began to see shapes from the corner of my eye and hear creaks coming from no identifiable source. 9 years after all this happened, I received a letter in the mail. The first one I had received in nearly a decade. It read, "Dear Charles, I just got word that my husband, your friend William, committed suicide yesterday. He was discovered with several open wounds covering his body, looking self-inflicted from the angle of the wounds. He didn't leave behind any note, and he seemed to finally be getting better the last time I had visited him. I have no idea why he'd do it. I know you two were close, so I thought maybe you could provide some explanation as to why he would do this. I hope to hear from you soon. Sincerely, Martha."
I have a feeling that if this guy had a wife and the protagonist did this to her husband, her letter would be more like, "What the fuck did you do to my husband?" Like, it wouldn't be like, "I sincerely hope that you know what happened to
whom it may concern.
I know you were close.
I just got
before
word
you
that
fried my husband's brain."
I like how she says it, like I just got word, like she was like in the fucking Bahamas.
Well, probably with her pool boy. I mean, all the money she
with
won
her
in
cowboys.
Right.
I didn't feel any sadness when I read that note. Fuck Will, no. Will, the real Will, had died 9 years ago before when I flipped that switch.
Plus, I was in love with his wife, and now she is finally single.
Finally, I love very robotic writing Martha. I wrote a letter explaining that I had no idea why he would do this, and that since the incident, he was probably mentally unstable enough to end his own life for any number of reasons, regardless of how he may have appeared. You are a beacon of comfort, my friend. Well, there's probably lots of reasons.
He was pretty fucked up. I don't know.
I really messed him up.
Maybe he realized how much he hates his wife. I hope you find solace in this letter.
I hope this letter finds you well.
It was definitely your fault.
Maybe if you visited him, you bitch.
I like that.
I just passed the buck.
Yeah, and the kind of person that just ramps it up, like proactively. He doesn't wait for things to.
I sent the letter to the return address, and that was the last time Martha and I ever contacted one another. This blast from the past was what inspired me to bring out the device again. There was only one way to truly understand what had happened to my friend. I put on the headpiece. I took a deep breath. This is all that's left, I said to myself, trying to persuade myself to pull the switch. You have to do this. For Will. I took another breath and activated the device. I felt a jolt of electricity in my head before my jaw dropped in awe. I looked around me, simultaneously seeing millions of figures and structures and animals, everything that it had and would ever stand on this spot. I looked around, seeing countless shapes. It was beautiful and humbling to see that this string of life had been here for so long and would endure for much longer. I saw war and peace, famine and plenty, plague and health, hate and love, and I was a part of all of it. This is literally just acid.
Right.
Like, you don't need to go through all this. Like, I walked through an endless field of Confederate soldiers, aliens, European colonials, and cavemen. Eventually I looked up and I saw the sun, bloated like a dead cow, looming overhead. That's not a pleasant image. This has become a bad trip. Dun, dun, dun. It exploded, bleeding hot gas over the planet, eliminating everything around me, past, present, and future. I then noticed figures surrounding me. These were different from the human shapes that had accompanied me. These were indescribable. Tall, now we're going to describe them. God damn it.
I love when, and people do that in real life all the time, and writers do it. Like, it was beyond words. Here are some words about it.
Yeah, it's just anything, it's Lovecraft definitely popularized that. And I'm not against it. It's just funny to me. But there's that, like, I couldn't even begin to describe what I saw. Let me count the tentacles. Tall beings with horrific bodies that contorted into odd shapes that were everywhere and yet confined to one area. They looked like something that only hell itself could produce. One of these entities leaped at me. I couldn't escape from its grasp. A loud ringing filled my ears, and I was almost overwhelmed with pain as it squeezed me. The area of its body that must be a face leaned in closely to me, filling my nose with the stench of decay. "This is what all things come to," it said in an all too familiar voice. "This world, this universe, will end in fire. Even the afterlife that so many glorify brings nothing but suffering." Was all I managed to say before the thing began to claw at me. I screamed and flailed my arms wildly in defiance. I managed to strike one of the arms, but that only annoyed it. It reached one of its claws into my eye sockets.
I like that description. It annoyed it. It's like,
I managed to strike one, and that only pissed it off. It reached one of its claws into my eye sockets, mercifully depriving me of sight. Eventually I managed to hit the headpiece in my blind attack. I felt it fall off of my head. The noise around me had died down, and all was quiet. I sat in silence and darkness, totally blind. I knew that the beasts were gone, but I just couldn't feel or hear them because my filter had been reactivated. But they were there, and they were just as real as they had always been. Always in this world, always able to affect us, but just beyond our reach. In a place in space-time where we could do nothing to them, but they could harm us as much as they pleased. I became distraught, to say the least, at the thought of all this implied. They could be anywhere, doing anything, at this very moment. Though,
to me that implies that they could do that, but they have very good restraint, because you never see somebody just get, like, eviscerated. Like, there's no such thing as spontaneous, like, mauling.
Yeah, just Will.
Well, yeah.
Happens
and that's
to Will
he saw him.
Yeah.
And he insulted him when he saw him. He's like, "Your bodies are fucking gross and
He's
tall.
Like, man,
you look
this
like
is
you're from
awesome.
hell."
Wait, ew.
Right.
And now they knew that I knew of them. I felt like they wouldn't be too happy about that. Surely they would come for me. They would
in 10 years.
Yeah,
they're going to wait for some
give
reason.
Give or take, yeah. They'd kill me, and I'd become one of them. The next year was hectic for me. I went to see it. Yeah, it's like, well, can't be that urgent. I went to see every authority figure I could get my hands on. Like, go to
He's
like
groping him.
Go into a doctor's house and be like, "I like you," and picking them up, taking them away.
He's got a fetish for just like feeling up famous people, like authorities.
From the national government to the state, the military to the local police, I tried to find all the help I could get. Nobody believed me. I spoke in front of countless students at universities and was laughed at. That's hilarious.
Who's giving this guy... Right.
but
like,
also very plausible. Jordan Peterson still gives lectures.
Good point.
So if you're batshit, you can get on a college campus today.
Yeah, I think the less probable or the less plausible part is like, I talked to all these authorities because like we like to think that, well, no, we don't, because I think me and you have figured out what the system actually is like. But like, there's this idea, it's like, oh, something happened, I'm going to go to the FBI. It's like, I wouldn't even know how to begin to approach the FBI. And I guarantee if I did, they'd either arrest me or just ignore me. Like, it's not particularly easy for just Joe Schmo to be like, I talked to the president of the United States, and he said, nah.
Where was I? Okay. From military, local police, I tried to find all the help I could get. Nobody believed me. I spoke in front of countless students at universities and was laughed at. I couldn't give up, though. As long as those things existed, and the only means of protection we had was ignorance, we were in danger. What?
The only means of protection we have is ignorance. So I tried to enlighten as many people as I could.
So I tried to tear down that wall as quick as possible with no plan. Every last human being on the planet. This is my hour of desperation. I'm posting this here to give each and every reader a reason. Spread the word. I don't care if you think of this as fiction or not. Just get my story out there. I'm continuing to do what I can, but nothing works. I've been trying to get people involved in further testing. Yeah, get them in on this shit. I've been trying to get people involved.
So far, I've zapped 2 people. One killed himself, and
I'm on the cusp.
I'm crazy.
Yeah.
But I promise, if you let me zap you, you may not go that way. I don't know.
Yeah. Maybe if we outnumber them.
His device is literally just a microwave that he cut a head hole into.
Yeah. Yeah, sir, you built an electric chair. I've been trying to get people involved in further testing to attract the attention of someone in power. I'm sorry, Will, for everything. The end. I like the story. It's very funny. Like, everything about it is just like the story of one dude with a really bad idea. And it keeps
that
getting
somehow,
worse.
like, yeah, but somehow just like, it's like, I think if we zap a part of a human's brain with this.
You know, if I add electricity to you, you might see some shit.
And it worked. It got him a PhD. It got him a job and a bunch of money. And even after the fact, people were like, he's just a eccentric scientist.
Yeah.
Let him have his toy.
What a wacky character.
I do like the idea because, you know, when he ran his experiment on Will, and it was like clearly, and he's seeing all these things, and then he saw something that drove him insane. And I'm like, at this point, though, like, what could that possibly be? But I do like the idea of, like, the thing that you could see that would drive you insane is the inevitability that no matter what you do, even in death, you're gonna, like, here's your future and it sucks and there's no avoiding it. It's like, well, that's I wouldn't have even like thought that, because I'd think like worst case scenario, like he talks about, the sun's bloated and the world's gonna die. It's like, yeah, but we already know that's gonna happen. Like it would be kind of, I can't imagine having to see it. But even then, even if you did, you would know, well, this is something that happens in the future that we knew was going to happen, like in the far future.
I'm just saying, like, it's kind of a joke, but it's also sincere. If this dude did any drugs in college, well, he probably wouldn't have got his doctorate, but he would also know none of this was necessary. Like,
well, perhaps his device was just a needle that injected LSD right to the spot it needs to get. Like, it was just
to break you.
Yeah,
shatter your mind.
But he thought it was like, this is unlocking reality. It's like, they're hallucinations, buddy.
No, that's reality, man.
Well, that's true.
I mean, they're not. It's not wrong. Like, reality is entirely based off the chemical composition of your brain. And yeah, I imagine you apply some good electricity to the right part, that fucking composition will change drastically. But I just love that thing of like, there's a threat coming. I must tear down our one defense. Someone listen to me.
No, I do kind of get, because like the thing was that, whether you know or not, eventually this is what you'll turn into.
But like you said, they're not doing anything to most of us. Just idiots who build a device to see them.
I think it means in like the future, like what we would consider eternity, eventually everybody will die and eventually they'll become these monsters. It's like, well, then how does alerting them to that fact change that fact?
Right.
So that's what, you never...
If you tell me if like that came out like as a fucking concrete announcement on the news, I would still probably fucking go get a coffee tomorrow and just play out the rest of my day. Like
right, normal. Especially put in that context, like this horrible thing is going to happen. It's like, cool, how do we avoid it? Like,
I feel that every day, though. Like, we live in the age of the atomic bomb. Like, you know, like, if you're not carrying that dread with you anyway, fuck, I envy you.
Yeah, so that's what I feel it was going for. And again, this like circles back to the beginning with the Rod Sterling, but I think it was going for that Twilight Zone thing, like the what is it? Terror
fucking hell dimension full of monsters trying to fuck you up.
Is it Terror? Is it 20,000 feet? I forget what the
Nightmare at 20,000 feet. Yeah,
20,000 feet. Yeah, that thing where like you're the one person that sees this horrible thing, and you're trying to convince everybody else, but it makes you sound crazy, so you come across like I think that's what he was going for. But in that story, in the Twilight Zone story.
And then
there's something very there's something very real that could be done if you convinced everybody. Well, at least theoretically, that could be done. Like, hey, land this plane away.
Probably the best shot in all of television history is when the monkey thing slides in on clear wires onto the wing. It's fucking great.
I liked when he like looked at the window and it's just at the window and it's like it looks like this puppet from like a 1970s like Sesame Street or something, and he's like, "Oh, it's scary." I'd be like, "It's
give Squonko a kiss."
But yeah, my point is like that one was like the guy is like perceived as crazy, trying to let the public know in a situation where they could actually do something about it. This guy's just like, everybody's got to know. It's like, cool, what do we got to do about it? And it's like, nothing. Like, well, then why do I have to know?
I need someone smarter. I need an authority. Help. Yeah.
But who would be the authority in the science that you had just invented?
I mean, seriously, who do you trust to handle that kind of threat? Like,
again, Barack Obama. He'd handle it.
I mean, you could get like Neil deGrasse Tyson, and he would just be like, well, actually, there's absolutely nothing you can do in any of these universes.
And Santa Claus can't possibly be real. And everything that you know and love is stupid.
And there are millions and millions of universes where you're not successful. And this is one of them. Yeah.
Yes.
The chances of you being in a universe where you're happy and fulfilled is 1 billion to the smallest decimal.
So you're telling me there's a chance?
No. The opposite. Yeah. Thanks, Neil.
Neil, crusher of dreams.
Neil, horrible man with big brain. Yeah. Big brain, bad man.
He's the human embodiment of well, actually, and I know there's other like worse stuff, about him, but yeah, he just thrives on chiming in and like ruining everybody's good time.
Well, he's the type of person who's like a fucking tsunami could hit and wipe out like all of Japan, and he would just be enraptured by the science of it.
Right.
It's like, can you imagine the amount of force it took to take all those people out? It's like, we didn't have to imagine it. They're gone, Neil.
But I mean, more so what gets me is he's the kind of person like, it might have been an Eagles game last year that like double post kick, the team kicked a field goal.
And the double doink?
Both. Yeah, the double doink. And everybody's like, whoa, that's insane. What are the chances? He'd be like, well, actually, the chances are pretty good because the angles of the ball and this was that. And it's like, shut the fuck up. We just want to be like, wow, that was neat.
Like, compared to that either being a normal field goal or going a no good field goal, that's still a pretty fucking small chance, Neil.
Right.
And you would know that if you watched football. I'm going to go harass Neil on Twitter. I'm going to go get banned on Twitter.
Let's do that. Let's do that thing where you send your fans against to dogpile on one person.
Yeah.
And in our case, that'd be like 2 people against this guy that's got a whole bunch of followers.
That would be my one sock account. Our number 1 fan. All right. I'm done. I want to go eat. I want dinner. So
yeah,
that's the show.
I made quesadillas, and they were delicious.
I made tuna quesadillas. No, that sounds gross.
Tuna melt Diaz. I don't know how the fuck you smash those words together.
Tuna Diaz.
Tuna Diaz.
Hi, I'm Tuna Diaz. And
that kind of sounds like an MTV Spring Break host. Yo,
hey, it's Tuna Diaz here with the Truly Spring Break
Daytona Beach, yo,
music video marathon, because there's still music videos. I was shocked too.
So,
all right.
Anyway,
yeah, thanks for listening, and
thanks for talking.
Thanks for talking. Thanks for sitting down for a fireside chat.
Yeah, I don't mean you. I mean our listeners. I'm glad that they talk.
I'd be really flattered if you were like delusional enough to think this was a conversation. I'm happy to have you here with us.
One of these weeks where one of us can't make the show, we'll have to do a one-sided show and we'll just leave pauses and be like, "This is the show." It's like the viewer participation show where you Mad Lib.
No, I want an episode where you're here, but I keep interrupting you. But it's like, that's interesting, Steve. But I want to know what you think at home.
I'll take it.
All right.
Anyway,
see you
go
next
get your
week.
food.
Bye-bye.